2019 is almost done and dusted. We've only got a handful of days left before the new year. And watching the hockey guy the other day, if you don't know who the hockey guy is, he's got an ice hockey, mostly NHL related YouTube channel, which was the inspiration for this channel. I watched him for a couple of years before I started this channel. But yeah, he did a video on his top 10 videos of the year. So I figured that is a fantastic idea, and I'll do the same. It was going to be an interesting one for me as well, because I knew which one was my most viewed video of the year, because it's just more viewed by a long shot compared to everything else. But I wasn't sure how the rest of the videos would pan out. So yeah, I'm going to go through just by pure views rather than by like total view time, because that will become a factor as well. But the most viewed videos from this channel in the year 2019. So we'll start with number 10. And it's Wales against Ireland. And that was a Rugby World Cup warm-up. It's hard to write at that angle on the board. Rugby World Cup warm-up game. Had 40,000 views, more or less. It was a review of that game. Everyone was getting pretty pumped for the World Cup at that point. I can't actually remember the result of that game. It's been that long. I feel like Wales won that one. If it's the Wales v Ireland, it means Wales was at home. Or was it the other way around? Someone will remind me. Maybe I should go back and watch my own review. But kind of makes sense. It was getting towards the World Cup. Interesting that a World Cup warm-up video trumps, because I did every single game of the Rugby World Cup, that had more views than many of the Rugby World Cup video reviews. So that was an interesting one. Number 9 was the Rugby World Cup jersey video, where I ranked all the jerseys by my own opinion about how they look. So that one had 42,000 views. I do like the jersey videos. I don't think the hockey guy does jersey rankings, but I've seen other kind of jersey rankings before, and I've always enjoyed that kind of video, because, you know, no one's got the same opinion about which jerseys look good, and you learn some interesting things about the jerseys. So yeah, that one's always a bit of a fun one to do, and, you know, it's good for me that it did pretty well in terms of the view count, because I think people enjoy that kind of content as well. Number 8, and we get into a few games here where it's kind of similar stuff. It was Rugby World Cup, New Zealand, South Africa. That was a pool game. That was 44,000 views. That was one of the bigger pool games, so I kind of guess that makes sense that that was high up there. I'm not sure if South Africa had won it. Would it have been more? That game had a lot of reffing controversy, so maybe that could have done better if I'd put more emphasis on the refs' performance. But if you know me, I'm not that big on talking about the refs. I prefer to talk about what the players have done. But either way, that was a big game, so it kind of got a decent amount of views. The next one was Rugby World Cup Japan versus South Africa. So another South African result. That one was a quarterfinal, so that was a big game. There was a lot of people interested in what the Japanese were going to do at that point. So they were kind of everybody's second team. You know, a lot of people thought of them as kind of the underdogs, and they did so well. So it was they were keen to see them get them through. I can guarantee you, though, if Japan had won that game, it would be higher up this list. But yeah. The next one is an interesting one. So the next one is Fiji. You might think I'm going to say Uruguay, but it's not. Fiji, Tonga. And that's also Rugby World Cup warm-up. Why is that one so much higher? 50,000 views. Why would that be higher than some of these other... actually, no, it was Japan, South Africa that was 50,000. This one was 51,000. 51,000 people for Fiji, Tonga. I haven't looked at the stats, but I know the view time for this one will be low. And the reason was, I think that game was on Sky New Zealand, and it didn't have many countries broadcasting it. The highlights were just not available. People wanted to see the highlights of that game. They were looking on YouTube. They found my video and they assumed it was the highlights and clicked on it and then clicked away within 30 seconds, a lot of them. So, yeah. Occasionally, it's happened to me once before when Wales played South Africa in the US, 2018. I didn't even get to see the full game because it was on some random broadcaster as well because it had been organised quite late in the piece. I managed to see the highlights and I did a quick review based on the highlights that I'd seen and all the articles that I read. It got flooded with views because people were looking for the highlights and they just couldn't find them because they weren't available online. So anytime that I review a game which for some reason the highlights aren't available, it gets a lot of views, but the watch time is really low because it's not really what people are looking for. But yeah, that is what it is. Number 5, and here's why I said if Japan had beaten South Africa, they would have got more views. Rugby World Cup, Japan, excuse my terrible handwriting. Japan, Ireland, 66,000 views. That was a big upset. And people sometimes look at me funny when I say the word upset. Like, that means that the team who won shouldn't have been able to win. It just means they weren't the favourites in my mind. Like, the underdog won that game. Japan went into that game as the underdog, despite the fact they were at home. And they got a great win. So people wanted to know about it. And from memory, it took World Rugby quite a while to get the highlights up for that one, actually, because one of the girls who's in the HR team at my work, and I only know her a little bit, she came to me after that game and said, "Do you have a YouTube channel? I was looking for the Japan highlights." This is after the World Cup and I'd gone back to work. She's like, "I was looking for the Japan-Ireland highlights and I couldn't find them, but I found your video." So, yeah, that can be a thing. But that was a big upset. It was a big surprise. It was a interesting result, whatever you want to call it. And, yeah, people wanted to know about it. So that's always the way of things. Number 4, Rugby World Cup. England against New Zealand. England against New Zealand, the review for that game, 69,000 views. I don't want to use the word upset, but it was an emphatic victory, and the 2-time champion got knocked out. So again, there was a lot of interest in that game from people who were perhaps neutrals as well as New Zealanders and English fans. So anytime that kind of result happens, and it's a semi-final, so it's always going to get that kind of attention. But yeah, interestingly, the other semi-final is not on this list. So that maybe tells you a little bit about it. But yeah, England against New Zealand, 69,000 views. Top 3. Number 3 is the Rugby World Cup prediction video. I did a few of these, but it was the one based on most recent results. 76,000 views for that one. I think that's the one that had South Africa getting knocked out by like Ireland in the quarterfinals by a massive scoreline, because that was one of Alistair Coetzee's games where Ireland gave South Africa a bit of a hiding a few years ago. It wasn't that recent a result, but it was still the most recent result. So I've had a few charming people come and tell me that, haha, your prediction was wrong. Yep, that's cool, man. Because I said it was infallible. It was a bit of fun. I did multiple of them. They're fun to do. Anyway, I like prediction videos, even if they're not made to be necessarily correct. Number 2, the review of the Rugby World Cup final was number 2. That got 83,000 views. South Africa, England. It was always going to be up there because it's the Rugby World Cup final. Again, there's a lot of people who might not ordinarily be searching for rugby content for the rest of the year or even for the rest of the 4 years, but during the Rugby World Cup final, they are keen to get themselves online and find some content. So kind of makes sense that it's pretty high up the board. But number 1, with 160,000 views, number 1 is Rugby World Cup foreign-born players. It's almost double that of the Rugby World Cup final, which is an interesting one. I did the foreign-born video for the November tests in 2018, and prior to the World Cup, that was my highest viewed video. That got to like 61,000 views. So even that would be on this list, I think, in 6th, if it was in the running for 2019. For some reason, people, they crave that kind of information and they're really interested in it. Even if they don't really seem to care about rugby, they want to know how many foreign-born players are in each squad. I find it kind of interesting, just to see, you know, where all the people are from, how long have they been in that country, how Kiwi or how Irish or how Aussie are they? You know, is it the very loose connection with their grandmother, or is it, you know, that they were born somewhere but went to high school and played all their junior rugby? You know, that kind of, those individual stories, they interest me. But yeah, apparently people really, really, really care about that. So by almost double, it's my most viewed video. Why that's the case? Why that's doubly more interesting than the World Cup final? That's kind of a fascinating one on its own. But yeah, people want to know. So yeah, those were my top 10 for 2019. Mostly World Cup stuff. So yeah, is anything here not World Cup related? No, if you include the warm-ups, absolutely everything is World Cup related, which is kind of not that surprising. I think there was some Six Nations stuff which was kind of top 20, and the Rugby Championship stuff I think was even a bit lower than that. So yeah, it's an interesting look. Foreign-born players. Apparently I should be cranking out more videos like that, but I think one a year is probably more than enough. Sometimes it's hard to dig up that information. Like for me, for that one, there was already an article written about it, which I was just able to quote. Whereas when I did it 2018, I had to go digging, which is a bit of a pain in the backside. But anyway, yeah, what was your kind of favorite moment of 2019? If you're South African, it's probably that World Cup final. Interestingly, I think it was Tom Curry that said like beating New Zealand was kind of worth it to lose the final. Something like that, saying how it's such a big moment. So everyone's got their moments for 2019. It could be the Japanese performance in the World Cup. It could be the Crusaders winning Super Rugby. Saracens getting points deducted. Who was it? Anton Leonard-Brown getting his pants pulled down during a game. Lots of big moments in 2019. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts. Drop us a like if you want. That'd be nice. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.